the amount of money that you spend, you can always make that back in whatever time frame. But if we both spend an hour here today, we can't ever get that back.
I shot an offer because, your first offer, it's not your real one. But I knew after I underwrote the property, the financial analysis that we do on these type of properties, we saw a lot of things that we can improve. On any renewals, we're increasing rents to market rents. Somebody approached me and about if I was open to selling, and I'm like, everything's always for sale.
See how you do under pressure. Oh, yeah, I've been wanted this.
I feel like this is the only genuine conversation we have like all week.
Myself up, moving on to the better.
Arturo Saldivar, welcome back to the podcast, man.
Thanks, Will, for having me here again, and it's a pleasure.
Dude, so I know that you're a very humble guy, but I want to let you know it took me forever to get you in here the first time, and you were episode number 17, and then shortly after you were on, your episode was like, it just literally went to number 1, and then
wow.
And then I remember telling you that.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're like in the top 10 and there's 10 episodes, it's like cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever had somebody that they go to like they've had like a bodybuilding competition or any type of competition, like a CrossFit competition, and then they're wearing like a second place medal.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like I didn't know you were that good. How many people were in the comp? And they're like 2. And then so I wanted you back for a while. And then, of course, you moving out of the office, which you used to work in this office with us, which I kind of want to get into a little bit, but kind of made things a little harder. And then, but I was like, dude, I want to have you back because I want you to be the 100th episode, because now you'll be the 100th episode and you're still number 1.
Wow.
So I was like, dude, whatever you brought last time, let's get into it. Thank you so much for coming. For anybody that hasn't heard your name, we really covered a lot of your story back in episode 17, so they can tune back to that. But just a quick little overview. You're a real estate investor. I want to say you haven't been doing this a long time. It's been a while now, like 10 years, would you say now?
Yeah, so it's been since 10 years, 2014.
But for what you've been able to accomplish, it's still a short time, because I mean, I think that a big thing of why a lot of people tuned into that last episode, if I don't remember the exact title, but it was like how I acquired 250 plus doors and stuff. And for you to be doing that in such a short period of time in your career, I mean, that's insane. And of course, anytime I'm on the lending side of things, but anytime your name comes up in real estate, people are just like mad respect for you and everything, dude. So thanks so much for coming back on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. And, it's an honor. It makes me feel, wow, and I just felt honestly like the last one we did was, like you said, I'm not a big spot, light kind of guy. And, it was not scripted. It was just kind of, and I still felt whenever we were finished, I was like, man, there's so much stuff I didn't even say. I probably should have said this. I should have said that, or should have, told them about this. But, those are probably the best conversations you have when they're just organic and you're just, having a conversation, and, it turned out great.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'm already noticing from you right now is that you're already kind of feel like, I don't know if I told you that the headphones help me concentrate, but sometimes the headphones make people like a little bit more like not themselves.
Yeah.
And, but last time I felt like it took us a while to kind of get you to open up. And then once we opened you up, it was just like up from there, and it was amazing. Yeah. But I completely get where you're coming from, because so yesterday I went and met with a couple of guys that are going to come on in January. They were on Shark Tank.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And dude, the reason I have the podcast is to just kind of ask people questions and just get to know their story and everything. And all I kept thinking when I left there, because they were like, kind of like, man, we don't know. Like they're kind of like that. They were like, we don't, even though they've been on Shark Tank, they were like, we don't really do a lot of that, like all this stuff. And then, and because the main guy, the guy that invented the thing, he's the dad. And then you have the son who's my age, he's a sales guy. And he's like, man, I'll come on. But he's like, my dad's the one that really invented it. So he's like, I would want him to come on and everything. But I left there And I was like, that was a podcast right there. Like that would have been so good. And it's going to be so hard to be like, how do we talk about the same thing again? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But okay, so talk to me, give me a recap of, it's been, let's call it a year, or has it been longer than when you were here?
Yeah, I think it's been a year.
A year. So give me a recap. What's been new in your business in the last year?
You know, just staying active, finishing up some of the projects that we have in the works right now, acquiring new properties, exploring different avenues as well. We plan on launching a fund the beginning of the year. So that's something new that we've been digging into, and really for us is to scale. You know, really once you get to a certain point where you accumulated so much in real estate, that is, for me, you accumulate so much that, you know, your own capital only goes so far. And, you know, we kind of reached that threshold and we decided to, hey, let's scale, let's go bigger. We have the experience already. We have the track record. We've proven what we said we would do. And now we have something to bring to the table. And I've always felt that was super important in business and life, is whenever you're asking anything if you're, you know, try to get mentorship or try to, you know, whatever it is in business, like you have to bring value. And people are going to respect it. So, and when people see that, the hustle, the hungriness, but not only that, but you bring value to the table for that person, then you get looked at different, way different. So, you know, creating the fund is going to allow us to not only scale, but most importantly, establish new relationships with new people and do partnerships with new people with new deals that can lead to many other different business ventures or different asset classes or whatever it might be. So that's what's been going on. We've acquired some new properties since then. Actually, the biggest property that we acquired, unit count, a single asset, has been recently. We bought it in July of this year, and crazy story on that one.
You always have crazy stories.
Crazy story.
This is
a crazy story. So I'm going to tell you guys a story that's of how we came across this property, and that's why, you know, it's so true that you have to always be vocal about what you do, right? So if whatever industry you're in, be vocal about it. Don't shy away from it. And be a student of that business, of your business, of that trade, but also be open ears. And you know, it was funny how this deal came along. Just to kind of put it into perspective here, it's a 128 unit apartment complex.
What's an average of the ones that you guys have been acquiring, or just like an average?
Right around, all of our properties are like from 30 to like. Before we acquired this one, 86 units.
Wow, so 128 was a big
was
jump.
The highest one we ever acquired.
Yeah.
And the story behind that was, it was a Sunday, and one of my good friends that works alongside with me, and he calls me on a Sunday, 1:00 in the afternoon. I'm in gym clothes, right? I had just gotten back from the gym, and he says, "Hey, in an hour, meet me here at this house. I want to go see it." And I'm like, he sends me the link. I look it up on Zillow. It's like this $8 million mansion on Riverside. And I started laughing. I was like, "Why do you want to go see that?" And he's like, "Trust me, I want to go and get inspired, get motivated." And I was like, "All right, cool. I'll meet you there." And that's the kind of off the wall things, like, you know, that happen that you don't realize. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go over there. So I pull up, right, to this house, and it's like this drive going up. And when I pull up to like a little hill, I see like all these people like just standing there. And then I see him. And then I park, and he starts walking towards the car. I open the door, and he says, "This is the story. You're a big shot from California, you flew in and you're looking to buy a property out here." And I'm like, what? And I was like, he's like, yeah, just play along. So I'm put in this spot, right, that we show up to this house, and I'm like, oh my God. I was like, all right. And I get out of the car, we go over there, they're all treating me, you know, like, oh, hey, how you doing? Great. You know, I say hi to everyone. They tore the house, beautiful house. And, you know, that's always good too. It inspired me. It inspired him. He's younger, gave him fuel for for what he's doing. And while we were there, just, you know, showing the property, the agent that had the listing says, hey, what do you do for a living? And I said, hey, I'm in real estate. And she said, oh, really? What kind of real estate? What do you buy? Houses? I buy everything. But multifamily is a top one for me. So if you have any or know of anybody that has or is wanting to sell, let me know. She's like, well, you know what? I have a friend that I've known for a long time. She lives in California. And that kind of, you know, me being from there and kind of, oh yeah, what part? And started having that conversation, just normal conversation. And then she says, you know, she has this property. It's an apartment complex. She's been mentioning that she would be open to possibly selling. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, where's the address? What's the name of it? Right away, she told me the name. I already knew where it was. You know what I mean? You know exactly where's everything's at when you're in the industry. And when she told me, right, I was like, yeah, when can we go see it? So with everything, time is key, right? I've always say time kills all deals. You got to act on it quick, immediately. And if you don't, you're going to sleep on it and somebody else will come, or it might not happen. Timing's key with everything. You just have to shoot your shot.
How many times have you made that call though, and then like gone back and been like, what's the difference between like making sure that you take advantage of the opportunity and then also being like, man, that was an impulsive decision though? Like, can you just touch on that real quick?
You know, I'm very, you know, I guess it's been experience. Like, you know, for me, it's, I know probably every apartment building in town. That's my, that's what I'm in the industry for. I have to know, if I'm in the apartment game, I'm going to know every apartment that's here, that's a possible acquisition for me, whoever the broker is. I got to create those relationships. And so as a student of the game, I have to continue to learn, and those decisions are made based on
what you know,
what I know.
Gotcha. And that's why so many people don't make it, because what you do is because either they wait on it and the deal's already taken away, or they don't know their stuff and then they make the wrong decision on.
And also this, you know, most people are afraid to pull the trigger or shoot that shot because they don't know what's next or what to do next. And I'm here to tell you that no matter where you are on the pole, that is never the case. The biggest thing that would separate someone from that is being a problem solver. That's it. That's all you do. And you solve problems. You might not know the answer, but you'll figure it out. And that is what is going to take you to the next level. I'm the same way. You know, I always take in every piece of information that anyone tells me. I don't care who, if you're a big shot guy, if you have nothing, sometimes you're going to learn something from everybody. And sometimes the stuff that you're going to learn from the person that has nothing is more valuable than the person that has everything, because that ambition maybe for that person or where he's is more passively, and it doesn't align how you're going. So, you know, and as you grow in business, you get complacent and you get comfortable. And my number one goal is I live in the uncomfortable life
all the time, no matter how high you're going. Because it's funny, you come on here and anybody that's listening to this, and especially the portion of the people that know you that are listening to this, they're like, what the heck is he talking about? I needed to scale up. Like, you were already at the top of your game. But it's like, if you feel like you're at the top of your game, it's okay if other people think that. But if you feel like you're at the top of your game, you're not going to be there very long.
Yeah.
And I love two things that you talked about. One thing you said, you had to bring value. to the table. Because like in my business, for example, people ask me, they're like, how are you doing the business that you're doing in this market, right? I just looked at the numbers. In 2021, we had 423,000 loan officers in the nation. That is expected to be around 80,000 by next year. We're down to 100,000.
Wow.
And what I tell people is, I don't call people and say, can you give me business? I literally had one of my agents send me a text from a lender that texted her and said, please send me a deal this week so I don't get fired. I'm not making it up, bro. I'll literally show you the text. I couldn't, mind blown. And then I looked at that loan officer's numbers and I was like, wow, they weren't joking. Like they probably are going to get fired if they don't close a loan or two. And then, but that's not how I do business. I do business on like, how much value can I give you in order for you to be like, man, like I have to work, I have no choice but to work with this guy. And then two, if you don't know how to bring value, the second thing that you said was you got to be a problem solver. There's so many people in our business, probably both of our business, that complain about problems. And I'm like, no, problems are good because problems keep you for you to have a job. Yeah. And so anytime I have a problem, I'm like, great, like this is something that I can add value by solving that. And that's how also you're going to find more opportunities that way. So to keep going with your story, let me ask this. So you show up, was this like a role playing thing, or was he just acting like it sounds like the listing agent was there. So give me some context on that. Like
So yes, the listing agent had no idea what was going on.
She thought you were a real buyer.
Yes.
Okay.
Which, it was something off the wall and that's how, spontaneous, same thing. Sometimes you go, when I was, trying to get motivation, I would go to the Audi dealership and go look at cars, sit in those cars, your dream car, and, feel it. You have to be in that moment. And for him, that was an inspiration for him because that was in his dream board. That's where he saw, maybe not that house, but he wanted to feel the feeling of walking through there and understanding like someone lives here, someone wakes up every day here, makes coffee, has breakfast, literally a family lives here and it's real, and how did that happen? Hard work. Some people are handed it to them. Some people grow from nothing and have the same thing. So like it's an opportunity for everyone if you're willing to take those action items that are needed to be able to get there, and the discipline that it takes. Because I mean, most people, like you said, they see you where you're at now, but they don't see the daily struggles of a business, of how your people stealing, people, all kinds of things that come up. And you just have to work through them and, give it everything you have. And at the end of the day, it's going to work out or it's not. But you're not cheating yourself off of saying, hey, I didn't give it my all. I'm always like, if anything happens, I'm going to go out swinging. That's the kind of guy I am. I'm like, I'm fighting to the end. Like that's the mentality that I see. And that was his, and I honestly did it for him. I could have easily been like,
How often do you do that right now? And then how often were you doing that? Let's say maybe when you were in his shoes, when you started, as far as like
all the time.
So you still do that right now? How often?
All the time. Whenever I get a chance, whether for me now, I would say, my motivation is, people ask me, what are you motivated for? Impact. So I want to impact in as much as I can, not just, family wise, but also community, and really set a name for yourself. And not in the business side or the money side or whatever it is, but really making a change and be able to help people, changing people's lives by what you've been able to learn, and you're able to pass that down. And you create this circle of people around you that are inspiring, that they each have their own ambitions. They have their strengths, their weaknesses. My weaknesses might be their strengths might be my weaknesses, vice versa. And you just put these people in your circle that are good at things that you're not very good at, but they compensate, on those areas. And, I always push everyone in our office to be a learner, to learn anything you want to accomplish. Like for us, all of the people that work with us in our office, even if they're W-2 employees, full-time employees, if someone wants to learn real estate and financial independence, like I want you to be with our company, not because of pay, because of what we bring as far as value in here. So everybody that's here, yes, pay is a part of it, but no matter how much you pay someone, if they're not in it for the right reasons, the next person that comes in and offers them more money, they're going to go. And then you just wasted all that time with that person investing in them for them to walk away. So your values, your core value, everything has to align from the beginning. Like, all the people that I've associated myself with that are in our circle here, right? I have people that reached out for over a year on Facebook to me, right? And I would now, I'm not saying I'm this person, but the reason why I didn't reach back out, because I get blown up all the time, right? Yeah. So I can't spend time with people that are not hungry, they're not on the same page as me. And if I see that you're, okay, then you give time. Yeah. And what do you bring? Because, that's kind of a balance that you always have to look at with your time, because as you grow, you get more busy, your time is limited, and you have responsibilities as well that you have to fulfill before the end of the day. So you want to make sure you just balance your time accordingly with the right people.
And that's the only thing that you can't get back, right? I don't know how many times I've said it on here, but it's the amount of money that you spend, you can always make that back in whatever time frame. Some people, it might take them a lot longer than others, but if we both spend an hour here today, we can't ever get that back on that. So, man, and I hear that hungriness from you right now, as if you were that guy that called you to meet him at that still. And I think that's why you still have so much more left to go. And dude, it's just amazing getting to see that. So going back to the story, I know I just wanted to kind of ask a couple of different questions there, but so she's like, I have this property. She gives it to you. She's like, exactly where it's at. And then what happened next?
So right away, my biggest thing was like, when can I see it? Right. Getting the property right away. Cause I couldn't just shoot her an offer, because then I could have, but in this industry, right, those type of asset classes, you're in the millions as far as purchase prices, right? So you're gonna go see and then submit an offer, right? You got to see financials. It's different. You got to see, all the financials in place, how it's performing, because that's how you're gonna base your offer on, really. So we went to go see it the following week, and I just shot an offer. And honestly, I shot an offer because, your first offer, it's not your real one. Yeah. It's just a starting point. It's a conversation starter, right? To see if we're even in the same ballpark. And when they countered 500,000 more. And I was like, when I saw it, I was like, right away, sign the LOI, send it right back. $7.5 million was the purchase price on this deal. But I knew after I underwrote the property, the financial analysis that we do on these type of properties, we saw a lot of things that we can improve. Right away was operations, expenses, little things like that. And also market rents were below, right? And based on that, I knew the property as is was, if they were to take it to market, easily 9.5, 10 million, right? And we went under contract, 7.5 million. We ended up buying it, closing it on it. This is in July. And actually this week, the property, we haven't done anything to it. We've just been, if you're in the multifamily space, we're just on any renewals, we're increasing rents to market rents. And so we haven't done any like CapEx work or anything like that. I think only we replaced like a condenser outside. So maybe like under $10,000 spent on this property. And this week, the property is not for sale, right? But people know, you know,
most of the stuff gets sold off market anyway.
Yeah. So, you know, we got, somebody approached me and about if I was open to selling, and I'm like, everything's always for sale. And send them all the stuff or whatever, not expecting, you know, nothing firm. And we got an offer for it. So we've only owned it since July, and we got an offer for $10.3 million. So
that's even more impressive than the one that you told me. I don't know if you told it on a podcast or not, but you told me a story about over there on 61st and Garnett, the deal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I thought that was impressive. This is insane.
Yeah. So, you know, it's great that we got that offer, but knowing what I know, experience of what we've been, right, as a team, what we've been able to do in those 4 months, improving operational expenses, the property management side, because now we have property management in-house, a division. So we run all of the day-to-day operations, and you're in it. So there's nothing like you managing, owning, and, you know, there every single day, operational wise, to have control and be able to really take your property to a higher performance level. So in those months from July till today, we've been able to increase rents $100 to $150 per unit on renewals. And we've increased the income, reduced expenses, which increases your net operating income. The net operating income is what you base a value. It's one of the plays that you place value on a property is the NOI. And we ran the numbers, and the property is trending. So if we hold the property for another 6 months without doing anything, just collecting the rest of the financials on paper, since we only owned it in July, they want to see 12 months full of financials. So if we just keep it like it is without doing anything, that's a $13-14 million property. And so
in a situation like that, what do you do? Because like, at that point, I guess you would just hold it until another seller like right now came, or do you take advantage of, like, how often does a seller come with a good offer like that in your business for something like that?
I would say that an offer is fair, but it's not great, because if you know, right? So like, yeah, $10 million. Yes, I bought it for 7.5. You know, we are gonna do well, but the property, based on performance, if no one does anything, it's a $13 million property right now. So I straight up told the person, I was like, hey, we put together this analysis, right? A trend, you see it trending up.
Yeah.
So like, I literally explained it to the broker. And sometimes, you know, the brokers, you have to understand that they probably don't see what you're seeing. Explain it to them and showed them like, hey, you know, if this person buys it for this much, they don't have to do anything. It's a cash flowing property, B+, over 100. You could do agency debt. You know, you can get 30, 45-year amortizations on properties like this, fixed for 10 years, non-recourse debt. And most people that are buying those assets are institutional buyers or are sophisticated buyers that either have 1031 exchanges and they're running against the clock, so they have to place money somewhere. So those are a couple things so what we showed them and showed them the trend, and I countered back at 13 million. I said, yes, it's not worth 13 million, but right now, you know, but without doing anything, it's going to be, I don't mind waiting, you know, plus, you know, interest rates dropped, you know, recently, and which spurred a lot of, you know, some people buying again. And I mean, what I think is going to happen is the first quarter of next year, end of the first quarter of next year, maybe second quarter of next year, they're going to make another drop. And in our space, right, if they drop it even more, well, you're able to your buyers are going to be coming in even higher.
Yeah.
So now you're able to lower your interest rate, which actually makes your property, you could pay more. Yeah.
What did they say back to that?
I just sent it yesterday. So
Okay, so
we'll see.
So I'm gonna ask you a question that I get asked a lot because I feel that way a lot of the times when I talk to you. And the thing is that you and I talk a lot about hard work, not being complacent, hustling all the time. Like, to me, that's like the easy part, right? But you also have to know how to do the business, right? Because like there's a lot of people in my industry and your industry that maybe have that hustle, but they're just not as we'll call them analytical enough to be able to try to like also understand that part of the business. So a question I get asked a lot whenever people ask me, because there's a difference between people are like, what are you doing to have the business that you have right now? And it's like you have one answer that's like for most people. Like there's like maybe 3 circles. Like you just say, man, just working hard, whatever. And then there's like a little bit inner circle that you're like explaining a little bit more. Between that and then the smaller circle inside, that's whenever I can really geek out and tell people like, well, it's all about conversion rate from the leads that you're getting and how many, you have to know exactly how many leads you're getting a month based on your previous year's production. The only way you can do that is if you're tracking everything. Like, so that's kind of
KPIs.
Yeah. And then and people look at me and they're just like, what, dude, one of the questions I get asked all the time, they're just like, have you always been like this? And I kind of have to like look myself in the mirror and I'm like, I haven't always been like this, but I think I knew when I wanted to take it to the next level, like you have to. So I'm asking you that same question. Have you always been like that?
I have. And, going back to, just shooting your shot, you can never be 100% prepared for everything. Do I know everything? No. I know I don't know everything, but I'm a student. I'm open-minded. I don't have an ego. I could be the person in the back. I don't, I just want to learn and get better. So I guess that's kind of, I don't know. I've always just been like that. I've always just, went for whatever I wanted to go for, and I would figure it out as I went if I didn't know it. And that's the it factor for me, or for what I see a lot of people is they want to know everything before they get started. And I don't think that way. I think there's only so much you're gonna know, and you're gonna come across situations where you're not gonna know, and you're gonna be put to that test to figure it out. And this is where all those relationships come into play. Being vocal about what you do, you start creating relationships in your industry, and then you start reaching out to these people, and then they could be the one solving that problem for you. And that's really what it is.
But I'm talking about like the analytical part of it, of like how you literally know, like you said, I bought this property for $7.5 million because I knew based on the data that I have and the data that I, did for it, I knew that this was a $9 to $10 million property. Now, after being there for 6 months, not even 6 months, 5 months or less, you're like, I got an offer for 9-10 million, but I'm not going to sell it for at least 13 because that's what's going to be worth at least by next summer. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm saying, that like you're very like analytical. Yeah. So have you always been like that as well?
I have. Whenever I get into, like, you always have to do your homework, right? So like you have to be a master of your trade. And if you're not passionate about what you're doing, if you don't, for me, it's like I'm passionate about learning what I'm doing every single day. So I'm constantly learning. So like, starting from when I started, right, I was flipping a $15,000 house, but I literally was side by side holding hands with the plumber, electrician, HVAC guy, the demo people. I mean, I wanted to learn everything before, and it was on my own house before moving forward. Like I don't want to rely on other people. I want to learn, and now I have a sense, an idea of how. That's always going to be there, and that's honestly what's helped me be where I am today, because that same approach I approach with everything I do.
And that was, you said, a $15,000 flip?
A $15,000 purchase. House, and that's the house, my very first flip that I did.
So I believe we talked about it on the first podcast, but just for people still listening to this, I just want to go back to it. You did that what year again?
2014.
2014. That was your very first deal.
Very first deal.
Very first deal. You literally had nothing.
Nothing. I only had 50,000 to my name.
50,000 to your name.
And it was hard work. Saved every penny I could. Nothing was handed to me. It was all hard work. I didn't even have, a business or, I had a job and working a 9-to-5 job.
So you were
part-time.
You were working a 9-to-5, and then that was what started. 10 years later, how many doors are you up to now that you've accelerated to the multifamily?
We're right around like 600. Yeah.
That's insane, dude.
There. On the multifamily, on the houses, it's.
And what you're telling me will get you from here in 2014 to 2024 is that you are doing things today exactly how you were treating them whenever you had a $15,000 property that you bought.
Exactly. The same hunger, the same drive that was back then, picking up trash, whatever it was. Like, I still, like, I'll go to a property. If I see something on the ground, I'm picking it up. Like, that's reflection of me, and just being that, always tackling things 100%, giving it 100% and learning it. Well, if it doesn't help you at that moment, it'll help you later on when something else comes up.
One of the things that I love that you keep saying, which I'm the same way, is you always got to be learning, always got to be learning. And one of the things that you touched on last time when you came on was your story of kind of how you got started whenever you met Alfredo. And he said, man, the only way I'm going to do anything with you is if you do things right. If you guys want to hear that story, you go back to that episode. But you did that, right?
Yeah.
And it sounded like he was one of the first people that kind of was willing to kind of teach you. And one of the things of why I feel like you and Alfredo have the relationship that you have, and then the relationship I have with him, is because a lot of people look at Alfredo and then they are like, this guy must be doing something right. Like, let me get some advice from them. But 100 will ask and only one will do anything with it. And you and I are one of the very few people that anything that he's told us, we go and implement.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here today, but whenever I came and worked for him back in 2019, his big idea was like marketing. We got to be in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I didn't want to do it, dude. Like, I was just like, why do we have to be in front of the camera? I mean, you remember, look, this room was, our processors were in this room. We turned this room. And then but you got to, in order to respect people's time, truly respect people, if you're asking them for advice and you believe that that's how they got there, or that's the next big idea or whatever, you got to take it and run with it.
Exactly.
So all that to say, who are some of your mentors today and where you're at in your business and in life?
There's a lot that I associate myself with. Alfredo still, I admire him a lot, and I still look up to him. He's a stud, man. You work with him every day. Everybody always asks me when they ask about mortgages. I'm like, if you're in the mortgage industry, you got to go talk to him. Whether you work with him or whatever, but you got to go talk to him. So he's just a great guy, and he's taught me a lot. And from the very beginning, when I first met him, reflecting back, and I'm super appreciative of him and taking the time. And I didn't ask for anything, and going back to value, what I knew that his time was valuable. And when he told me to do something, I had no questions asked. You don't have to hold my hand. Boom. 2 years later, I was back in there, and I proven to him, but also like, hey, he's worthy of my time. And it was a while before we even did anything business wise. It was just friendship, because I always feel like business transactions with friends or people they have to be the right time, the right place, the right deal. Not everything's for everyone,
or it can hurt the relationship.
Or it can hurt a relationship. You know? And you have to understand too, like, these are investments. Most people think like, oh, you've never lost money. No, that's not true. I mean, you lose money, you win, you have losses, and you have wins. But you have to realize, like, this business, you're investing, right? So just like you invest in the stock market or any other form of investment, you could take a loss, you could take a huge loss or win.
But the bigger risk, the bigger reward, right?
Yeah. So as long as people understand that and who you're working with, then, you know, hey, I took a loss.
Yeah.
Well, let's make it up. You know, like that's the way I see it. So not only Alfredo, but I have various other people in the industry that, you know, I reach out to and continuing to establish those relationships. So I wouldn't say I have like one specific mentor, because I see everyone
that you can learn
exactly.
From them. But do you, how many people, you don't have to say names, you don't even have to say what they do. How many people do you think that you have right now that maybe they are where you're heading towards, and that you're getting constant, not maybe even constant, because a lot of the times, a lot of like people that you would consider a mentor, maybe you only talk to them a couple times a year, but those 2 times that you talk to them, the question that you ask, like, that's what takes you to the next level. So how many of those people do you have right now?
I would say about 2.
2.
Yeah, and one of them is also local, and he's not even in the real estate side of things. But at least once a week he calls me. If not once a week, once every 2 weeks. And it's never about business. It's always like, how you doing? How come you haven't talked to uncle? I call him uncle. He calls me nephew. Yeah. And, you know, I met him before I was even starting, like before the
$15,000.
Before that, like I was still working my 9 to 5, but I remember reflecting back on that. Remember, I was vocal about what I was doing. So like back in the day when I was working on 9 to 5, I was the go-to guy. I was hey, if something was needed, whatever job it was, construction, painting, whatever, I always was the go-to guy, because I always say yes. Was I a painter? Was I this? Was I that? No. But going back, problem solving. I would find that person that would. And that's how I met him, was going to his house, cutting some branches off, leaning on his house. And I pulled up to his house, and it was a big house, circle drive. And he was out there in his rocking chair. As soon as I pull up to his driveway, he looks at me and he says, now, because you see me on this house and rocking on this porch, he says, don't think I got money, you know, and to try to charge him. I was like, my first response to him was like, only what's fair. And he's like, I like that. And that's how it started. And it was a $600 job, $600, that it was the biggest return, I would say, because he's taught me so much about life and business, how to approach situations, not about how to make the dollar, but just how humble he was. And, you know, there's so many things that I found out about this person, not because it came out of his mouth, but because of the work that he has done. And that just put me in a different perspective. Like whenever, you know, I would go, hey man, I just did this deal. I was so hyped. I was younger, you know, you get excited. First thing he would say to me is he would always bring me back down to earth, right? And he says, you know, just make sure you stick to doing what, you know, is right. Don't don't fall off the bad end. Like he just started throwing nuggets at me about not to stay straight, focus at the end goal, and never betray who you are to try to get the dollar or try to be successful. Just be genuine and honest, and that's what I did. And so every call has always been about that. Never about money. Never about. It's always how you doing. How's your wife? I'm always the same thing. I was like, how's your wife? How's your son? How's everything doing? And he'll tell me what he has going on, and he's like, I'm just got hired to do a public event in Australia, speaking event, and he does consulting, speaks, he's an author, he does a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, that's awesome. So then I tell him something, he's like, okay. So it's like that good vibe, and
it's so important to call somebody and just to check in on them, because we live in a world where you're only I mean, a call is kind of rare nowadays unless it's like business stuff, right? You like, I make a lot of calls during the week, but they're all business stuff.
Yeah.
But like if my sister calls me, it's kind of like, whoa, she like never calls me. So it's like, does she need something or like what, but it's like when you get a call and then they're like, hey, just checking it. It's almost kind of weird, honestly, because it's like, it's crazy. So that's awesome, man, that something that simple can go that long way. Man, I really appreciate you coming back. I value your time a lot, and I'm sure that people are going to get a lot of value from this. The last question that I have for you, if you where you're at right now, if you had 10 seconds to talk to the guy that was flipping that house 10 years ago, what would you tell him? In a quick, like based on the 10 years that you've, honestly, I think that your 10 years that you've been doing this are most people like 20, 30 year experiences. You've experienced a lot of the last 10 years. So what is it that you would tell that person?
I would say super thing is belief. Believe in yourself. I would say it's probably the biggest it factor, because your confidence goes a long way when you're around people. If people don't see confidence in you, then they're not going to take you serious. And how do you build that? By prepping yourself, learning, putting yourself in those situations. And if you don't take those chances, then you'll never know. So belief. So you got to build yourself up first, build your mindset up first, and have conviction in what you do. Like if someone asks me something or about what I said, I immediately respond with assurance, because I have no doubt. That's the way I've done all this work. I'm not trying to pitch you something that I've never done. I took the risk. I went all in, like, to prove everything I've done, the resume. So here it is. It speaks for itself. So belief, I would say, in yourself. No matter what you do, it's going to take you to the next level, and you're going to continue to grow from there. And you might meet people that are in different industries that could provide a vehicle that it's even better than the one you are right now. And maybe you're more passionate about that, and you start chasing that. But you have to have those beliefs in place, and also those daily disciplines that are required of you to move forward and continue to tackle whatever comes ahead. So.
Dude, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you, brother.